Is blogging dead in the age of social media? This is actually our third take doing this. I started doing the Q&A session live just because it saves me time and also allows me to have direct, live, interaction with the audience here. You can ask me questions via the chat function and all of that. However, there has been, I mean, since I started trying to do this, it's always been kind of these kind of weird technical glitches, and things haven't always been working exactly how I want them to. So this time, I'm determined to actually get it right and to get things, actually how I like it, right? So anyway, is blogging dead? That's the question that we received this week, which was kind of based on my Q&A session last week when I kind of explained the story of how I went from, just some guy, growing up in the countryside of New York State in the United States of America to like traveling the world for 18, 19 years and becoming a traveling journalist and writer, writing books, getting book deals, and working for big media companies. And I kind of explained that the way that this actually happened is I started out as a blogger, as an independent blogger, right? I mean, I didn't, stand in line, wait, apply for jobs with like big news organizations. I just didn't. I kind of came in through the back door, right? I just kind of went out and I just did the work that I wanted to do for myself, right? I went out, kind of like worked on my craft, practiced, and kind of built up my kind of a small name for myself in connection with the topics that I covered, right? And I, published, mostly through my own independent blog, which I also made a living from. That was my primary source of income for about 7 or 8 years. And I kind of explained this story, explained that how, via blogging, I was noticed by, best selling, I had a big break, right? This New York Times best-selling author apparently read my blog or became aware of it, offered me a book deal. I did the book did well, and that kind of created a lot of other opportunities with me, with Forbes, with the Guardian, with South China Morning Post, Bloomberg, and a lot of other sources, or a lot of other media sources that I work with still today. So anyway, and part of that Q&A, part of telling that story, I said, yeah, this is the way I did it. I use blogging as a platform to kind of launch a career in journalism, but I'm not so sure how possible this is today. It's a different climate out there. When I first started blogging, around 2004, 2005, the internet was kind of a cesspool of information, of misinformation. That's what Eric Smith from Google once said, right? The internet is a cesspool of misinformation. And a lot of the sites that were out there were done by, independent people, people like me going out and experiencing something directly, right? And it was kind of the internet was kind of an alternative to kind of the mainstream, corporate media at that time, and people kind of turned to the internet to kind of escape, mainstream corporate media, or at least to get something different, right? But in the intervening years, these kind of streams of media kind of merged and kind of became one and the same. The big media companies, they successfully transitioned to online, and then Google started. I mean, Google basically realized that they had a problem around 2010, 2011, and that was that their algorithms could be easily gamed, and it was difficult for the robots to tell what was a good, legitimate, high quality site in terms of content, and what was bullcrap, what was content spam. So what they started doing was giving more traffic to big brands, big companies with a big name, and less traffic to independent content creators. And that seriously wiped out an entire ecosystem of independent bloggers. I mean, there was a bunch of us, just traveling the world, writing about the experience, doing what we wanted, and telling the stories that we thought were, interesting, funny, important, or would, as the case may be, or the stories that we thought would make us money, right? It was kind of like a dream come true for like a span of like 5 or 6 years. I mean, living was good, right? I mean, it was good to be a blogger. People were reading blogs. Blogs were, alternative media, and people thought blogs were exciting and whatever. But that has since kind of changed. We had like the rise of social media, and now people are kind of getting that, independent media fix, that rough from the ground perspective via social media, and less people are really, using blogs for that purpose, right? And while I won't say that blogging is necessarily dead, But I will say, kind of using it as a platform to kind of launch a career in journalism, or even to share a message, or to get traffic and money, especially, has become probably about 10 times more difficult than it was when I did it. Based on my current traffic stats of my blog. Um, and so, like I said, I'm not so sure if this path is replicatable. However, what's what's the other option? Right. I mean, what other option, do you really have if you want to, travel the world and produce content about things that you think is interesting and important, and you don't have really an experience doing so, and you don't have, a CV full of, articles that you've written for major media organizations. How do you get in through that door, right? Do you apply for a job? Hey, cool, Andy. How you doing, man? Anyway, no, through these live streams, I can, people can talk to me directly, and I can talk back to them via the camera. But, and this is kind of interesting because the guy that just messaged me is Andy Graham, HoboTraveler.com. He was one of the most successful, probably the most successful independent travel blogger there was. I mean, during that era, or even now afterwards. And he's really kind of the model of how Google's changing algorithms, how Facebook's changing algorithms, as far as them not wanting to to link out or give traffic outside of Facebook really had an impact on somebody's business. Like Andy did, really, really good business on his site, HoboTraveler.com, for about 10 years, just blogging and just producing content and writing about the things that he thought was interesting. And then, Google kind of wiped him out, and then he kind of had to reinvent himself as his own social network. So now when you go on, HoboTraveler.com, it's now, a completely different, social network. I mean, Andy basically adapted, changed, and survived. He evolved. He evolved with the times, and now he's doing well again. But however, I mean, if you want to be kind of do like more what I did, which is just traveling and writing and doing research and sharing the experience of traveling the world and kind of making discoveries and talking about them. I mean, that kind of stuff, that kind of media is a lot more difficult to monetize today. But however, get back to what I was talking about. What's your other option? I mean, you're not just gonna apply for a job with a major media organization and get a job. You need a body of work behind you that kind of like shows the kind of work that you want to do and the kind of work that you can do and what level you are at um, in, in that work. And blogging is still, I mean, actually, I mean, it's not a good way to do this, but it's one of the only options that you really have. I mean, you start up an independent blog, right? You travel, you write, you produce content. People are gonna find that content still when they do, searches on Google or whatever. If you are writing about something that's kind of unique, right? If you're writing about a topic that not a lot of other people are writing about. If you are, I mean, basically doing something that is important. I mean, if you want to go out and write about cruises or like, I don't know, resorts or spas or, hotels. I mean, there's a zillion people writing about that. I mean, I got my big break because I wrote about China's ghost cities. There was nobody traveling to empty cities in China, back then, especially not spending years in them, right? So there was like very little competition out there, to get my pages to rank well and to be noticed and to be regarded as an authority on that topic. So if you use blogging kind of strategically and not just to tell the stories that you think are fun and cool and interesting or, all that, but you do it use it as kind of a catapult to put your content in front of people, you can still do that. Um, However, it's tough, and it's always been tough, and it's even more tough now. Um, so Georgie, I mean, the guy who asked this question, he's been asking a bunch of questions lately. He is interested in, traveling the world and writing about it, and telling stories, and basically just being a traveling journalist. And he's right now he's kind of building the skills. He's at the start of this journey, right? And it's a long road, man. But you know, To answer your question, I wouldn't recommend going the social media route that everybody else is going in. It's far too competitive, um, and you're kind of producing I mean, when you blog, you are producing content for your own business, your own channel. I mean, something that you own and you have control of at the end of the day. You produce content on, Instagram and Facebook and even YouTube. I mean, these people can turn you off at any time, right? They can change their algorithms. And you can go from, getting a lot of traffic and a lot of money and whatever one day to being a nobody the next day, and you can't really have any control of that. But when you blog, and especially when you're on your own site and your own server, or at least a server that you pay for with your own domain name, you have some ownership of your content, right? You can kind of make an investment in what you are doing and kind of hope that that investment kind of carries on into the future and you can build something that will last into the future. Now, if you just want to, like, play for today, try to do what's popular and, get, likes and whatever the fuck they call likes and fucking Instagram and all that shit, then go the social media route, right? But if you really want to kind of like use media or use independent media as a way to try to propel a career in journalism or being an author or filmmaker, um, having having that portfolio, having that independent portfolio of your work that you feel is good, that you feel represents, who you are as a creator is incredibly important. And, blogging is still, one of the best ways to do that. Question from Ross. Wade, saw your video for the first time the other day when you were in China's abandoned cities. Interesting stuff. Thanks, man. Do you have a question? Okay, so basically, I mean, to sum up Georgie, to sum up your question, no, blogging isn't dead, and in fact, it's probably a better time than ever to be. Oh, not than ever. But however, I mean, the fields have been, harvested, right? As far as bloggers, like a lot of people are going to social media and they're not blogging anymore. So therefore, the competition to get your pages ranked, at least in terms of like competing against other independent content creators, is a lot less now. So now, I can write pages about, the topics that I cover, and there's going to be a lot less people who are doing that, via blogging because nobody blogs anymore, right? And people still use, Google search to look up, HTML or PHP to look up, basic web pages that aren't in like a walled garden of like Facebook or Twitter or something like that. So now, while I said before, it's harder to like game Google's algorithms and to like get traffic, to a web page, from from that angle, from another angle, because it is, this gonna sound kind of ironic, because it is more difficult, a lot less people are doing it. And because a lot less people are doing it, the competition's a lot less. So kind of oddly, your chances of ranking higher are actually going to go up if that makes any sense. Uh, Ross asked, what are your current projects? Well, my current projects right now, I just finished up 3 years traveling the New Silk Road, or China's Belt and Road Initiative is like a connection of basically kind of the recreation of the ancient Silk Road. That's basically what it is theoretically, and it's what it is, on the ground. So I spent the past 3 years traveling between China and Europe, going down through the Middle East and Southeast Asia, South Asia, just kind of researching these investment and these development projects like new highways, new cities, new ports, and all that, and how and with the focus of how do these projects how do these major geopolitical initiatives how do they impact local people, how do they impact culture, and what's the future, of Eurasia. And a couple weeks ago, I was in Malaysia. I did a big project called Malacca Gateway. Malacca Gateway is a big Chinese investment port new city project that they're building on reclaimed land. So basically, this went out, in this, coastal, in front of these like little coastal villages in Malaysia, and they're building these, skyscrapers and giant new cities and giant ports, and the people that were living there were just, fishermen, right? Who kind of need access to the sea, and now these guys are being removed from the sea, and basically their village and culture is being destroyed. What was really interesting about the village that I focused on is that there was it was called Portuguese settlement. These were like the original, the descendants of the original Portuguese, settlers or invaders. Basically that's what they were in Malaysia from like 500 years ago, and these people are still there, right? However, their community and their village and their way of life is um, pretty much under siege by these development projects. I mean, really, I mean, literally, they're gonna be building like these big skyscrapers, like on reclaimed land, like right in front of these people's village. Basically, so I did that, but I'm getting kind of to the end of this New Silk Road project. I kind of want to get on to something different. I've been making films. I've been shooting documentaries more lately about kind of like real like first person, driven. Oh, not first person, but really kind of stories about an individual who is, you know, either has an interesting story or has been trying to accomplish something. Somebody who's like trying to go through like a challenge and kind of like you know I mean basically good personal stories. Like right now, I'm filming a documentary about this rapper from the Middle East named Asasi. He was well known, in the Middle East. He's from Syria, and then kind of like war in his country caused him to like not be able to go back home. So he came to the USA as more or less a refugee, and now he's trying to kind of like recreate his career and kind of build his name up, from the bottom up, from scratch, like in Bangor, Maine, right, which is kind of like off the cultural map of the world, right, and he's actually really really good at what he does, and he's like actually pretty well known in the Middle East, and it's just it's one of those classic stories, right, of somebody that has like a big goal, a big dream, and they're trying to achieve this dream through great adversity that they can't control, like through war, being a refugee, like he had to go to he was in Lebanon and he had to go to Nepal. He got kind of stuck in Nepal, and that led him to like Malaysia, and then finally like he married a girl from the USA, and he came to the USA, and now he's an Arabic singing rapper, trying to like resurrect his career in, like I said, in Bangor. So I've been focused on these kind of stories more lately. In Lebanon, I filmed a documentary about this guy who he runs kind of this classic bar called Captain's Cabin. Right, this place has been there forever. It's like one of the longest running bars in Beirut. Right, and the story is more about like how this bar kind of served as kind of like a meeting point for people like to go to like through the period of war, so like the civil war and all that crazy conflict that like happened in Lebanon and Beirut, like through the 80s and like even into the 90s, right? And the questions that are mainly asked is, what do people do in a war zone, right? What do people do when the place that they live is absolutely insane? There's no rule, there's no authority, right? People are shooting each other. You don't know who's on what side. What do you do? And what people did in Beirut is they lived their normal lives, right? They went to the bar, they partied, they had friends, they had a community, and all that kind of so that story is more about this bartender just talking about his life and his experience, kind of observing this transition from being in a peaceful city. I mean, Beirut was once one of the cultural centers of the world, through like war, and the place got blown to bits, to now where the place is kind of becoming trendy again. So I've been kind of just focusing on projects like that. I've been trying to get away from news. I like news reporting. It's exciting. You can go places. You get access to a lot of people. You get access to a lot of things that you wouldn't have access to as just an ordinary traveler. However, the longevity of these stories are kind of limited, right? I've kind of become aware of the fact that I'm in my mid 30s, right? I'm going into my late 30s now, and I'm kind of received this. I'm kind of feeling this pressure to kind of create something that will last, right? Even the best news stories that you could, ever come up with, their lifeline as far as like relevance is very slim. So I've just been trying to do stories that are more about the basic human condition. Things that will last forever. Some things that you can like look at or watch 100 years from now, and it'll still be interesting and engaging because it tells like the basic stories of life. So that's what I'm focusing on. However, there's really not much money out there for people wanting to do stories about, Syrian rappers in Bangor, Maine, trying to live their dreams. All right, another question. Hi, Wade from London. By the way, I love your content. It's unique, refreshing, and mind changing. Thank you. Oh no, thank you, man. Thank you for watching. This is this is great. And we have a special guest in this Q&A. An intruder. That's the camera right there. This is my daughter, Rivka. Say hi. She's been traveling with me for, almost her whole life. Sometimes I take trips away from her and her mother. But for the most part, she's been on the road. Is there anything you want to say to anybody?
No.
You can look at the camera there. Want to say something?
No.
No? Do you want to say hi to Andy? Andy's watching. Uh-huh.
Hi.
All right, Andy has a question.
What?
I really enjoy writing blogs. I believe the attention span has shortened. It seems as if reading is painful for internet users, like they can only think in tweets. Is attention span shortened? Oh man, I gotta think about this one. Ruby just woke up from her nap. In my opinion, it has attention span shortened. In my opinion, I don't think attention spans have shortened, but I do think that the attention span that people give to online content has shortened, right? So I mean as physical creatures, I don't believe that people still read books, people still watch long movies, right? People still do like all these stuff that like requires a lot of attention. However, I think we become conditioned to like when we browse the internet or social media and stuff on our phones that we don't want things that demand a lot of attention because like as soon as like accessing the internet kind of transitioned from being like desktop to kind of laptop to kind of tablet to kind of phone, kind of the new portability of it and new speed of being able to access it, I believe kind of changed our mentality and how we approach these devices, right? I mean, you read it on your phone when you're like or check things on your phone when you don't want when you need a break from doing everything else in life. I mean, kind of like a cigarette break. Like I never smoked, but I kind of always acknowledge the role, the social role, or the personal role of smoking. Right? Oh, you like frustrated. You're gonna like task. Oh, you go out, you have a smoke, you take a break. Oh, you're transitioning from one activity to another. Oh, you to take a break and have a smoke. And kind of like like checking the internet or social media feeds on on your phone has kind of been has kind of become the thing that we do in between doing other things or when we don't want to focus on what we're actually should be focused on rather than being the thing that we're kind of like applying our attention to and applying our focus to. You know what I mean? Our phones are the internet has become our distraction, and it's kind of a distraction that we want. Sometimes it's a distraction that we need, but as far as putting like long form content on that's accessed through a device that people are basically using as a distraction, I think that people don't really want to invest a lot of time into what they read on their phones. That's just my opinion. And if you're producing content online, 50-60% of the people are now just going to be reading it on their phones, right? They're not sitting down physically at their laptops or their computers to kind of read your blog or to read your online book or something that they really need to pay attention to and really really think about, right? When they sit down at the computer, that's like do real work, in my opinion. All right. I have another question. I look forward to future videos. My question to you is, how has your global travels profoundly impacted your life? Oh, man. More so, lessons learned and your new perspective on your own dogmas, ideals. Oh, man. No, I just came back to the USA for a short visit. After being abroad, I basically did a around the world trip. Going from Europe to the Middle East and then Southeast Asia and then Philippines, and then I came back. Um, and what I think, I mean, one of the biggest like profound impacts that travel has had on me is it really made me appreciate my own country and culture, where I come from. I mean, you go into travel. You go into travel with the mentality, yeah, you're going to see other cultures. You're going to have to come out of your comfort zone. You're going to have to learn new things and adapt to new ways of life, right? But what travel also did is like once you kind of detach from your home culture, right? Once you're away from your home culture for an extended amount of time, just the little things that you took for granted that was just a part of you, the way that you just thought and reacted and just lived. I mean, just the normal aspects of your own culture, you start to be able to see them a little bit better, right? I mean, travel starts out like, oh, these people do it like this, I do it like this, these people do it like this. It's very like superficial. But as that goes on, it gives you the ability, the distance to be able to look back and see your own culture through kind of the same lens that you apply to other cultures. And at least looking at the United States, I mean, come back. I mean, I'm a visitor here. I'm basically an alien here, right? I have like no attachment to anything at all. I've been gone for in and out. Well, I come back once a year or so to visit, but I've been doing this for 20 years. I mean, I left when I was 18 years old, and I kind of grew up abroad, and it kind of gave me this distance, kind of look back at my culture and be like, wow, things aren't bad here, right? When I left the USA, I thought it was horrible, right? I thought, oh, we had this, brutal, racist, patriarchal society, and blah blah blah. And then you go to the Middle East, and then you go to Japan, and then you go to China, and then you go to Scandinavia. I was like, oh wow, that's really what racism is. Oh wow, that's really what sexism is. That's really what misogyny is, right? And you see all these things in the world that are just. I'll put it this way: when I first started traveling, I thought everywhere else was better than where I came from, right? I thought the grass was greener on the other side, and then I went on the other side, and then after, as Andy would say, you take off those rose-colored goggles, right? And you see how people are really interacting with each other. Once you learn a few languages and you can hear what people are saying, right? It's like, man, things aren't really that bad, you know, in the place that I came from. Now, that doesn't mean I'm ever going to really come back. It just means I can appreciate it more. I can appreciate it more because I can kind of see it a little bit better from how it is to give myself kind of distance from the source. I mean, when you're like in a culture, in your community, right? A lot of things are just, I mean, humans are cultural animals, right? You don't think about your culture. If you had to think about your culture all the time, I mean, shit wouldn't work, right? You have these programmed responses that you just do kind of automatically, being taken like going outside of like social contexts that demand these program responses that you learned. It allows you to like more abstractly and kind of like see you know why you tick the way you do and why the people in your community that you love tick the way that they do. And once you kind of see the reasons why people do things or why you did things, it's a lot easier to be less critical of them, basically. And as far as own dogma and ideas, I think travel, or at least long-term travel, I think it makes you less tolerant and more tolerant, right? It makes you less tolerant because you realize through travel you have the ability to change your life, right? It like drills like right into your head, after you travel about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, that you can change the way things are around you. If you don't like the person next to you, you leave. You don't like the place you stand at, you leave, right? If something's broken and you don't like it, you fix it, right? It gives you this real DIY can do attitude, but that makes you a lot less tolerant to bullshit, right? Like you don't just sit next to a coworker, who's a complete asshole and tolerate it. No, you say something to the guy, right? Because you know that you can always just leave. So in a one-way travel makes you a lot more of an intolerant person because you become more intolerant to things that are shitty that you can change, right? And another way travel makes you a lot more tolerant because you've really become detached, like as I was saying before, from your own cultural prejudices, from your own culturally derived ideas, right? And I'm in Bangor, Maine. Visiting my wife's family, and they're like real liberal, right? They have a real liberal mentality, which is fine. It's cool. I mean, I kind of grew up in an apolitical household, so this doesn't really apply to where I came from. Well, when I was like, when I was a teenager, I got into like, super leftist politics and stuff like that, anarchism and all that, right? And I believed that I was right, and I believed that I knew the way the world was, and part of this had to do with the fact that I was a teenager. All teenagers kind of think that's part of that plane of development, but but once I've traveled for a while, I kind of my own ideas, my own concept of the world and the way things work, it started to break down. First of all, I realized that the world and politics, especially, and cultural and social relations and class relations are a lot more complicated than what I initially, conceived them to be. That geopolitics and geoeconomics and globalization, it's a lot more complicated. And part of the reason why I realize this is because this is what I spent a decade and a half researching. Right, it's what I write about at major media sources. So this is kind of what I look at, right? And then you kind of realize that all these things are are like way more complicated. And then now the knee jerk reaction from that is that your own ideas and your own concept of the world, how things work, that kind of breaks down, right? And you might start out traveling being super conservative or super liberal, and then you just lose a lot of that edge, and you just become kind of a person, right? Like completely apolitical and completely not associated with any group or tribe. You just become, I don't know, kind of a free radical, just kind of floating around out there without a group or without a tribe, complete outlier. In some ways, it's kind of sad. I guess it's kind of lonely sometimes, but in another way, it's okay because you're free. You can go from one group to another group to another group, and what they say isn't going to offend you, right? What you say probably isn't going to offend anybody else. I mean, you're not going to sit down in a group of people and be like, oh man, these guys are all fucking racist and sexist and then leave. No, because you travel the world and that's how things normally are with almost anybody you hang out with, right? You get used to it and you accept other points of views a lot more readily, and you learn, you know, when to ask questions instead of speak, right? And that's probably one of the biggest lessons that travel has taught me. And also that is, not my place to kind of try to make people be like me, which is kind of a big thing, especially in the USA. Okay. Ross asked, Wade, have you ever seen that Starbucking doc, which came out in 2016? The guy's still going, visiting every Starbucks in the world after all this time. I wonder what makes someone so committed. No, I didn't see that, but it sounds pretty cool. I mean, it sounds kind of gimmicky, but I mean, if you can use like this, I mean, we're also talking about apparently there's a Starbucks, or there's this documentary about a guy who wanted to visit all the Starbucks in the world. But I mean, like I said, it's kind of a gimmicky thing to do, to kind of create a story. However, you can use that to try to drive an interesting story about something bigger or broader than actually visiting every Starbucks. But I wonder how that's even possible, because Starbucks has popped up at such a rapid rate, and what a lot of people don't talk about is Starbucks has also disappeared at a very rapid rate too, right? I mean, Starbucks closes hundreds of stores every year around the world. So, like, just basically trying to do something like that would be a good segue into talking about just basically globalization and how quickly economies change and economies emerge, especially since Starbucks is one of the first companies in to kind of new cities or new developments, especially in Asia, right? So, I mean, a lot of times during my Go Cities project, I'll be out in this half-built city that nobody really lives in, but there'll be a fucking Starbucks, right? you know. So Ross, I will definitely check out that documentary. Iwathon says, "Good to see you with a fresh blog. You in the USA?" Yeah, for a few weeks. I came back. I was in the Philippines for a little while. Before that, I was in Malaysia. Before that, Thailand. Before that, Lebanon. And before that, I was in Prague. So yeah, I'm back visiting my family, my wife's family for a little bit, hanging out, getting some projects done. As I said earlier in this stream, I have a pretty cool, documentary project with this Syrian refugee rapper, trying to living his dream. I'm actually shooting a music video now. I mean, I never shot a music video before. I never thought of filming a music video before, but yeah, I mean, this documentary is kind of like a documentary musical almost, right? So it's kind of like one continuous song that's kind of based off the concept of his album. It's I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it comes out. But music videos of each of his songs is like part of the documentary. So we're like going around, filming these documentaries. This dude is like he is really, 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 really good at what he does. So he's like, such a good actor and he's so expressive, right? And so confident. I mean, this dude doesn't have a self-conscious bone in his body, man. You'll see once I start putting up content about this. But because he's such a good actor and so good in front of the camera, I can do a lot of like interesting things that I couldn't do with like a normal person as far as filming, right? Like I film normal people, right? I film documentaries, I film stuff for news, I film vlogs, you know. I don't usually film actors or people who have the ability to really act. So this is actually something really really special for me to have somebody that is so good in front of the camera to kind of go out and you know do interesting stuff. So basically, yeah. So I've been shooting music videos lately. And D Jordan, hello Wade, I really like your videos. Um, oh, a lot of our work of art. I have a question, as is called the song at the end of the Petra Mohawk video. Oh, D Jordan 7 wants to know the name of a song that I used in a video. I have no idea, man. So YouTube became like really strict on copyright infringement, right? So if you want to have music in your videos, it has to be something that you have the rights to use. And now you don't just go out and like, buy rights to, if you're smart, you don't go out and just buy rights like every individual song, but you subscribe to kind of music services, either like Epidemic Sound, that was one. I mainly use Artlist.io now. And basically, it gives you like these catalogs of like thousands and thousands of songs that you can use royalty free, if you pay for a subscription to that service. Now, unfortunately, you have access to so many different songs and so many different artists that you don't really remember who actually created the songs that you use. You kind of just take their songs, and you can adapt them and you put them like in your videos. And unfortunately, I don't really remember these songs too much. I mean, they're songs that's basically created to be used on YouTube or in videos or documentaries or whatever. They're not really, most of them aren't really standalone songs on their own. So I honestly, man, I'm sorry, but I have no idea. Right? I guess I can go back and listen to it and try to let you know. But yeah, thank you for watching it. Ivathon asked, "Have you read Destined for War?" About U.S. and China and my opinion on it. No, I haven't, but I don't know. That's probably not the type of documentary that I would think was very good. I mean, based on the title. If you kind of view China-U.S. relations kind of like from the outside or like a real superficial view, it seems like they're two global powers that are destined to meet on the battlefield. But actually, the U.S. and China are so intertwined economically that there's a limit to what they can do to kind of oppose each other at this time. Now, 30, 40 years from now, things change fast. 30, 40 years, this could be different. But at this time, there's very, 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 very little chance that anything is really going to blow up in terms of China-U.S. relations, at least militaristically. And we see Trump's trade war on China, how that kind of is in the process of fizzling out, which was, I mean, actually, I'm going to piss some people off, but it seems that trade war was more successful than what anybody thought it could be. At least how China it really backed China up. I mean, basically, I mean, China responded to it way different than, well, a lot different than what I thought they would, and they actually backed up on some things, and they it kind of really showed. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, the United States is declining influence in Asia and all that. China's rising influence," but a lot of that's only on the surface. I mean, deep down, the USA is still a powerhouse in that region. I mean, economically and politically, and there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. A lot that's going on, kind of the deep data or like the nitty gritty of it, right? That yeah, the U.S. influence isn't. I would say that it's not really declining, at least not nearly as much as we think it is, or what we would think it is based upon what the mainstream media tells us about it. I mean, we like these narratives of fallen global powers, right? I mean, we've been telling the narrative how the New England Patriots dynasty is going to end, right? I mean, that's a good story. Rising powers, fallen powers. It's the story of humanity, but I don't know. We're not seeing that yet, in my opinion. Okay. Another question. I have gained great insight from your answer to my travel question, and I'm sure want to rewatch this entire video, Wade. Oh, thank you, man. Good luck, man. We're up to 41 minutes so far. I thought I was just gonna answer one simple question, be on for 5 minutes, but we're here almost an hour later. I would love to know a few experiences you have had in your travels that have blown your mind away, or has just simply left you speechless for whatever reason. Oh man, dude, man, you have some good questions. I really have to think about this. So, things that have blown my mind. Ah, I would say that a lot of things that blow your mind in travel. I mean, first of all, you see a lot of beautiful things, man. You see a lot of beautiful places, beautiful things, and explain them or talking to them or telling somebody about something good and beautiful and joyous. It's really difficult to properly express that without being as boring as fuck, right? I learned early on in my travels that, yeah, I could go off and have all these crazy experiences, but when I get back home and start telling people about them, nobody really wants to hear it, right? So I just kind of shut up about that. Like, I don't really tell, many stories about all these great, beautiful things. However, some of the things that really stand out in your mind is being like, oh my god, what did I just see? Is usually the bad stuff. I mean, stuff like finding a dead body, or I don't know, like seeing people treat each other like a horrible way. Like I remember just off the top of my head, I remember watching these old ladies in China get in a fist fight over a plastic grocery bag. And a balloon, plastic grocery bag, and a balloon. There was a balloon thrown in too, right? This freaking, I mean, some store was having a promotion. They're giving out plastic shopping bags, real cheap ones that not even these people would really want, and a balloon. And they ran out, and they didn't have enough for everybody standing in line. So these old ladies got in a fist fight over it. You see that shit, it's like, what the fuck? I'm fucking in the Twilight Zone, right? And you see a lot of things like that too. It's I don't know. It's usually real bad stuff, just confusing stuff, right? Like oh my god. I mean, I guess that Ghost Cities project that was kind of that presented you with a lot of WTF experiences, like what the fuck? They're building an entirely new city with hundreds of half-built skyscrapers in the middle of this freaking farm, right? So you see stuff like that, especially in China. You just see it and you just can't believe it because everything that you've grown up and been conditioned to believe the way the world works, and it doesn't work that way there. And then you just see something that kind of goes against it all, and it kind of just blows all your preconceptions, just blows it absolutely to bits, right? I mean, like when you ride through the desert and see this new city, just rising that they built in 5 years, and doesn't really have any people living in it yet. Built for 300,000 people. It's like I didn't know the world worked like this. Um, and more importantly, which countries do you advise people to travel through an experience? What countries do I advise people to travel to? I could kind of pussify this response. That, oh, that depends on what you're after. But no, um, go to the countries that you don't understand. Go to the places that you think you won't like. I'll put it that way. Right? Rather than going to the places that you think you will like, go to the places that you think you won't like. Right? Because it's in these places that you stand to be most surprised. I would say, go to the Middle East. Go to the Middle East, walk around, talk to people. Go to Beirut. I landed in Beirut. I didn't know anything about Lebanon. Right? And I'd never been there before. I traveled all over the Middle East before, but this is my first time in Lebanon. Walking around like within an hour of walking around, I'm sitting at a bar. I have all kinds of friends and people and having a really good time. Right? I didn't expect that. Yeah, go to Pakistan. Go to some weird part of India, and then I'm going to answer that question another way too. Don't travel with a guidebook. Never, 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 ever, 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 ever. No, don't travel with a guidebook or any kind of online equivalent. Just never, never, never do that. Right? Don't look on travel sites for places to go. Don't listen to me. Right? Go out and find places for yourself. Read the news to find places to go. Look at maps, right? So if you want to go out and like really find, how people really live, I want people to like approach you and interact with you in a way that's, more natural for them, more the way that, the culture and society really is without being perverted by tourism. And tourism in any country, USA included, it kind of perverts people's mentality, and it kind of changes the concept of the foreigner or the other or the outsider, not as being somebody to show hospitality to, but somebody to get money from, right? And this mentality is infectious in kind of tourist areas, right? And you will have a completely different experience in a place that tourists go than you will in a place that tourists don't go. I don't have anything against tourists. I don't have anything against tourism, right? It's nice, combine everybody in one place, simplify things. Offer everything that these people want here, sell them, make some money, right? Great, right? However, I don't like the interactions. I tend not to like the interactions that I have with people in tourist towns as opposed to places, even in the same countries that, visitors really don't go. Their experience is completely different. Um, Hold on a minute. I'm losing my battery. Yeah, so to give a simplified version of that response, looking for a place to go, looking for a place to travel to. Travel where people don't go. Go to places you've never heard of before. Don't go where other people go, and definitely do not go where people recommend you to go. Right? Like if someone, and the first thing I do when someone says, "Oh yeah, you should really go there," I say, make a little note, whatever the place name is, don't go there. Right? Because if someone's telling you that you should go there, there's probably a lot of other people out there that are going there too. And like I said, nothing wrong with that. Nothing against it. It's just not my thing. I like to travel and talk to people. Right? That's what I do. I walk around looking for people to talk to, looking for people to ask my stupid questions to, looking for people to video and interview, and I want to find people who will talk back to me and not try to fucking sell me a pancake or tattoo or drugs or some stupid shit that people bug you with when you're in a fucking tourist town. Okay, this question comes from, and it's so hard saying people's like screen names because like sometimes it's like supposed to be right as initials that are all combined. Like I don't know. Ngongdeg. Sorry, man, if that's your real name. I just absolutely brutalized your name. Sorry for that. Um, Hi. While gathering material for your Silk Road project, do you plan on going to countries other than China? Yeah, I've been to about 30 of them. I've been on that. Did that project for about we're going on 3 years. So it's China, almost everywhere in Central Asia, um, Far Eastern Europe, Ukraine, Poland, the Balkan states, the Caucasus, Azerbaijan, Georgia. I went to Armenia too. Don't really know why. And then and then I didn't go. I didn't go to Turkey for this project. I probably should have. We're out all of Southeast Asia. So I went to probably about 30 countries outside of China for the Belt and Road project. Okay, another question. Thank you for taking time to make this video. I would love to see more lives if possible in the future. And Wade, I can tell you had a long day. Excuse my deeply curious questions. Man, your questions are like the best, man. No need to apologize for them. Okay, Ibathon asks, how is your income stream these days? Fuck, man, it's basically non-existent. Like I'm in serious trouble. Funny that you mentioned that. I haven't had like financial difficulties in, man, like 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, it's been like 5 or 6, 7 years or so since I've really been living hand to mouth. I've done pretty well. Traveling and writing and making documentaries and fixing documentary projects and consulting and doing all that stuff that I do to make money, right? That was going really, really, really well for a long time, and then I decided to blow it all up, right? To to divert attention and time away from projects that I know make money but don't have much longevity as far as like the projects that the product don't have very long lifelines or very long cycles of relevancy in exchange for doing projects of more this the fundamental questions of humanity and the fundamental stories and challenges and conflicts of being human. And I started making art films basically. Like I kind of transformed from a blogger to a journalist to a fucking artist, right? Which is almost embarrassing to say, but yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been working on independent documentaries, full on for the past 7 or 8 months, and the you don't get paid for that, and they cost a lot of money in equipment and travel, but it's what I like doing. It's what I'm passionate about, and it's what I want to be successful in ultimately. So I mean, I'll spend my last dollar on this, right? I don't care. I mean, as Werner Herzog famously said, "You want money to go make a film? Go work as a bouncer in a bar." So I mean, I may be working as a bouncer in a bar someday. I mean, here's the thing, right? I can make money writing. I can make money, making certain types of videos. I can make money consulting and doing all this stuff. But all this stuff takes time. It takes sit down computer time, right? And there's only a certain amount of time in the day where you can be like running cameras, where you could be editing videos, that you can be sitting at the computer writing, right? That's limited, right? Because I mean, even though I'm completely obsessed about what I do, I'm also a biological entity that really can't sit. I can sit in a chair and work for 10 hours, but I can't sit in a chair and work for 18 hours a day. You know what I mean? So by kind of like mixing up, kind of streams of income, doing other things, it will be beneficial. I mean, in the long run, more than likely, so I can sit down on the computer, edit my videos, make my documentaries, and then go do something else for work during the day. However, actually getting up and going out and actually finding that other thing to make money, I haven't really done because I'm completely stubborn. So I'm writing this out. Um, I'm gonna see what happens. I mean, I still write for the Guardian. I still do corporate writing and stuff like that, and you know I do enough to get by. But I'm gonna be in trouble soon if I keep trying to be a fucking artist. um, Okay. Question. I previously suggested not to travel with a guidebook. Wow, but how about no guidebook? Wow. Oh man, I just totally lost both my lights. I've been doing this for longer than what I thought it would be. Well, let's open that up a little bit. Alright. Now we have this like kind of creepy backlight coming down on me now. Okay. Anyway, no guidebook. Wow. But how about like for knowledge of history, unexpected, knowledge of history? The knowledge of history and like all the fucking background information in the guidebook is complete garbage, man. It's really bad, you know. It's just oversimplified crap written by people that like aren't really writers. If they were really writers, they wouldn't be writing guidebooks. You know, those guys that write guidebooks. I mean, yeah, they have a lot of status in the travel community, but they don't get paid shit, right? The reason why they're doing it is because they can't make a living, you know, writing for like a real outlet, right? Doing real writing, right? I kind of sound like a dick, but you know, basically what I'm saying is, yeah, the background and stuff that's written in the guidebook is written for the kind of the travel audience, right? It's kind of written for people that only want this very kind of superficial, knowledge of a place, you know, who aren't really looking to kind of dive in deep and find out what a place is about, who just want to visit, you know, drink a few cocktails and you know have a few experiences, you know, have a good time. No, no, no. Who just want to go in, have a good time, and get out, right? I wouldn't recommend that. I mean, even just reading Wikipedia is better than reading the background and most guidebooks, in my opinion. Get a real book, or find somebody that writes about a certain place you want to go and give them a call. You know, or say if you have questions about a place, find somebody that wrote about it on Facebook. Say, hey, I have a question about this place. Can you give me some background, or can I give you a phone call or quick chat? Oh fuck. I have a friend from high school, actually. I don't know how he got here. Brian Baker. Oh man, that's a blast from the past. He asked where my beer is. I usually have a beer when I do these Q&As. I don't know, man. I haven't been outside the house and like I don't know. I don't like going to the grocery store. It's like snow out, man. It's like piles of snow. I live in the tropics, man. I don't like the snow anymore. I'm not going out. I'm not even going out to buy a beer, man. Anyway, yeah, but oh, thank you, Ruby. Ruby just turned on the light for me. Yeah, but that guy that just asked the question, Brian Baker, I went to high school with him. We would do some crazy stuff, man. But here's the thing: like, I was kind of a troublemaker in high school. But I wasn't as much of a troublemaker as what I kind of gotten branded as. And what this Brian Baker dude would do is he'd go out and he'd do something fucking stupid, and everybody would think I did it, so I'd get in fucking trouble for it. Yes, what matters is meaningful travel. Oh man, Andy asks, is being a world traveler cheaper than living in the USA? I would say that being a world traveler is cheaper than living in most countries. Hey, Rivy, can you not play the piano right there right now? I'll be done in a minute. Thank you, baby. I would say that, yeah, I mean, definitely traveling is cheaper than being in the USA. I mean, people think it costs additional money to travel. I mean, it costs additional money to be a tourist because, like, when you're a tourist, you're kind of living two lives, right? You're living both the home life, where you have, family, a car, a house, payments and bills and all this shit. And then you also have travel expenses like laid on top of that, right? So you kind of combining these two streams of expenses on top of each other. And, in order to pay for the house and the car and all that, you kind of need a job that's in the same place that, all these other things are that you want when you live kind of a sedentary life. So I would say, I mean, yeah, traveling is cheaper than probably living in most places. Well, maybe not most places, but no, probably a good 30% of the countries in the world. But I mean, if you live the travel lifestyle, you don't have the house, right? You probably don't have a long-term permit. You probably don't have car payments. You probably don't have insurance. You probably don't have, regular, I mean, cell phones are expensive in the USA, relatively speaking. I mean, cell phone plans. You can get like 10 gigabytes of data per month in Kazakhstan for $10, right? I pay like, 45, $50 for like, half that here. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's just choosing your basically choosing what you want to spend money on, right? I mean, if I wanted to have a house and car and all that stuff, I wouldn't have enough money to travel, and few people would. So I guess it's about choosing lifestyles, right? Like in another Q&A, I talked about like each lifestyle is at the expense of all the lifestyles, right? You know, I mean, you want to be a doctor, you live the doctor lifestyle. You have like hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans, more than likely. You work long hours, right? And being a doctor, I would think, oh yeah, that's great. You're gonna make a lot of money and all that stuff, but you're not going to be a traveler and a doctor, at least at the same time, right? At least not a traveler, being able to go wherever you want, right? So I mean, each lifestyles, even lifestyles we like see as being like really good or really appealing or really you know high status lifestyles, it comes at the expense of every other way of life. So it's as far as like spending money and making money and you know you choose your path, right? I mean, it's like walking in the woods, right? You choose a path and you can only be on that one path. You can't walk on two paths at one time. You can go from one path to another path. You can turn around on a path and go back to where you started, but you can't walk two paths at once. And as far as budgeting for travel, that's all it's about. You either choose if you want, the elements of the sedentary life, the feeling of security, owning stuff, or you choose to travel. You just can't have it both ways. And that goes for I feel that goes for a lot of the countries in the world, I mean, even if I wanted to live, except for the cheapest ones, even if I want to live in Malaysia, right, which is not the most expensive country ever, but if I want to have an apartment in Malaysia, I want to have a car in Malaysia, I wouldn't be able to travel. Well, at least not like I do. Okay. Have you published the art projects? Well, I mean, as far as the artsy documentaries that I was talking about, no, not yet. Hold on a minute. When things aren't in focus, it just drives me absolutely crazy. No, I haven't published them yet. They're kind of long-term projects. Take a lot of effort and a lot of time and a lot of money. I don't know when I'll have the first one out. Maybe about a year from now or so. But nah, but I'll let you guys know when I do. What I want to start doing on this channel is showing more behind the scenes, right? About what it's really like to travel and do these projects and the people that I meet and all this stuff. Now vlogging is a good format for it, but vlogging is difficult. It's not really technically difficult. It's just difficult to keep up with it, right? Because like if you're telling like a continuous story of going from point A or point in time A to point in time B, you need to have like all the steps in between to kind of have it make sense in a video narrative. Um, if you start missing these points in between, all of a sudden your entire narrative structure falls apart and it becomes really difficult to piece it all back together again, which is kind of where I'm at now. When I did that around the world project, I started out, I'm gonna vlog every day, right? And it was kind of like a different style. Like I'll show you. I'm gonna have something to piece together from it, but it was like more of a different style of vlogging, not like dude with a camera in his hand being like, "Look, I'm at the restaurant. Look, I'm eating spaghetti. Look, I'm drinking a beer." But it was more of a shot at like more like a movie, right? I'll show you. It's kind of weird, but it was more like I was an actor in a movie than I was a narrator talking to a camera. It was kind of an experimental thing. Unfortunately, it demanded too much time, and I wasn't able to keep up with it. I believe I kept up with it for about a week and a half or something pathetic like that. However, it's a model of filming that I think will that if I put the effort and time into it, I think it would work. Okay, another question from Jolte Ibsen. So, what do you suggest to do if you are on holiday in a new country you do not know? Talk to people, right? Meet people, ask questions, right? Get to know the country for yourself. Like, I don't know how many times, man. Like when this first started, I didn't always have this perspective. Like once upon a time, I used to prepare to travel. Once upon a time, we used to travel with a guidebook and all that stuff, right? And then I started realizing it just kind of happened gradually. I didn't wake up one day like I'm never traveling with a guidebook again. It just sort of happened. And then I started noticing, like repeatedly, I'd be in the air, like in a plane going and landing in a country I'd never been to before, and I look out the window and be like, shit, I know absolutely nothing about that place. What language do they speak there, right? I mean, sometimes like I knew so little, I didn't even know what the name of the language that people spoke, right? You know, and when you land and when you're in a place that you have absolutely no real concept of like what's actually things are like, man, at least for me, that is like the most fun. That is the most fun feeling that I can imagine, right? Because everything, if you don't know anything about a place, everything is going to be new. Everything is going to be interesting. Everything is going to spark a question. It's going to spark, it's going to give you an impetus to kind of discover and to learn and to experience. Right. So I mean, I'm like way more active, way more social in places that I don't understand. I don't have any experience in. I don't have like preconceived notions of than I am in places that I feel like I know. Like when I land and when I go to Lebanon, I run around talking to everybody, making friends, shooting video, having a good time. When I go to Europe, I sit in cafes and well, I mean, I make a lot of friends in Europe too. I'm not gonna say that, but I'm more prone to like being more comfortable just kind of hanging out inside, doing some work on the computer or whatever. I don't really have that urge to go out and grab the place with two hands and be like, what the fuck are you, right? Like you go to someplace you don't know, you just like grab it. What is this thing? A flower? A lobster? A country? Okay. Wade, as you have had extensive travel throughout the world, I would love to know and your insights on how America has changed for the better or worse over your lifetime. Oh boy. How America has changed over my lifetime. I would like to say that I feel that people have become more intolerant. People. No. I'll phrase that another way. People have always been people are intolerant everywhere, right? People have started caring more. I'll put it like that. And caring more isn't always a good thing, right? People started caring about their issues and their causes and their, movements. And they started caring enough that they seem to feel that they have the right and the role and the responsibility to project their beliefs over other people, to expect people to talk the way they do, to expect people to refer to them the way they want them to expect people to adapt to them rather than them adapting to, the social context that they're in, right? And I feel that this is kind of been one of the biggest changes. Now, granted, when I was in a kid, well, when I was in the USA before I started traveling, I was a kid. I left when I was 18 years old. So what I really knew and what I really experienced on my country back then is very, very limited. And also, when you kind of look back in time, you see things through the lens of nostalgia and all that. But now it's like I'm just. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, this information age was supposed to make people smarter, right? You can find like an incredible swath of like human knowledge, almost immediately with this device that you have in your pocket, right? That was supposed to make us all smarter and wiser and more open-minded and more tolerant, but it's actually had the exact opposite effect because now it seems like people think they know everything already, right? Oh, I think I know, my group said this, I think I know this, this is what I read. And it's the same on like any side of a debate, right? You have people that are absolutely, positive to the point of almost being zealots about their worldview and how they think that things should be, and um, basically morality. I mean, right and wrong, morality, and basically what is moral and the morality that they follow and the morality that they impose upon the people around them. Right? And I find this like kind of this imposition of morality, and also the ostracizing of people, being outraged and ostracizing people that don't fit like your framework or your concept of morality is something that has really changed in the United States. However, I think this is something that's also changed in pretty much everywhere else in the world as societies kind of like move deeper into this social media, online, smartphone in your pocket kind of era, and people kind of like close the walls around their group when people are able to connect with people who have the same ideals as them instantly in these big groups that kind of reinforce these ideas. I feel that's leading people to be, way more ignorant and way more intolerant. And that's just not in America. That's pretty much everywhere. It used to be you lived in a community, right? You didn't have, I mean, you want to call someone that wasn't with you. You picked up a telephone, you had to call them, you had to know them. You didn't really do that too much. Wanted information, you went to the library, or you talked to the people around you, right? And when you live in a community, it's like a mixed group of people, right? There's actual diversity, in like a real physical community. You go down to the store, you talk to people, you go to the bar, you talk to people, you're going to meet different kinds of people. These, and kind of the internet age gave us the opportunity to cherry pick our communities, to surround ourselves and to meet up with people that have like a similar interest to us and similar beliefs as us, right? Which it's a good thing, on one hand. On the other hand, it puts walls up around us, and then we start believing our own shit, right? We start believing that what we believe is the way it is, and that's dangerous, man. That is very, very dangerous. Once you believe that, the way you think things are is the way it is for everybody, I mean, that's dangerous. And I notice that a lot in America, this mentality, and people being offended and being outraged on both sides of the debate, right? Is something I think is different than what it was when I was growing up as a kid. Next question. Yeah, big question. I know. Finally, is Singapore the real deal quality of life?
I like Singapore.
Did you guys hear my daughter? She just said, I like Singapore. So I guess that answers your question. Yes, I like Singapore a lot. Singapore is expensive. Singapore is interesting. A lot of people say, oh, Singapore is so boring because they have all these rules and laws and all of that. But you don't really feel it when you're there. I mean, there's some countries that you kind of feel kind of oppressed, and I never really felt, oppressed in Singapore too much. But the place is expensive. I mean, one of the things I like most about Singapore is kind of the multicultural aspect, right? There's Indians who've been, I mean, and there's Indians and Malays and Chinese, and all these groups have been living side by side for a really, really long time, right? And they've all maintained like deep aspects of their culture, right? It's not a mountain pot. Singapore isn't really a mountain pot like the United States is. In the United States, people started, when people started immigrating to the United States en masse, they kind of moved into these immigrant communities that were kind of like, of the people that they were. And then when people started moving west in the United States, they got all mixed up, and we all lost all of our elements of culture and all that. Like, I know nothing, my family's Native American, German, and like English mainly, and absolutely zero German heritage is passed down, zero English. We just become Americans, right? And that goes for pretty much everybody in America. But yeah, it's not like that in Singapore. I mean, you can talk to an Indian guy in Singapore whose family has been there for like 3, 4, 5 generations, and they're still very Indian, right? Same thing for the Chinese, same thing for the Malays. And I don't know, I find that interesting. But you can get that same mix in Malaysia too. Malaysia doesn't have. Well, Malaysia has a different type of rules because it's technically a Muslim country. But I don't know. So yeah, I really like Singapore. I think it is the real deal. And next question. You're very thoughtful in an interesting way. Your wife must be something special to share. Your unusual life. Yeah, my wife is a weirdo, man. Like when I first got with her, I thought the same thing that everybody else thought. I said, yeah, she's young. We got together when she was like 23. She traveled for years up to that point. I'm like, yeah, she's gonna travel for a little while, but as soon as she has the kid, I mean, she got pregnant pretty much right away. As soon as we have that first kid, she's gonna travel with me for a year, be backpackers in Latin America, whatever. Then she's gonna want to go home and get a house and get a car and get a job, and then she's gonna make me get all these things too. So, I mean, when I first got married, I was like, yeah, this is probably going to happen. Everybody thought that was going to happen. Anybody with a brain in their head, assumed that would happen because that's kind of the pattern of the way these things go. Um, and then 10 years later, it didn't happen, right? She's still a traveler. She has two kids. She still wants to go. Now, part of that Belt and Road project, that New Silk Road project, I traveled away from my family a lot. During those 2 years, I was away from them for months at a time at certain points because, frankly, they didn't want to go to Central Asia, and I was moving fast and doing all kinds of crazy stuff that wouldn't have been appropriate to bring an entire family with me. And at the end of that, my wife said, "No more." She wanted to go too, right? you know, she's still a traveler. I mean, right now she's studying. She's getting her like AMI Montessori certification, which is the kind of teaching that she does. And she decided to go to school in the Czech Republic. I mean, she went back, did some observations for class in Rochester. Now she's in New Hampshire. She's not with us right now. I'm in Bangor, Maine, at her mom's house, and she's in New Hampshire. You know, and we're gonna go back to Prague in a couple of weeks, and then in a couple of weeks, about 2 months from now, She's probably going to Mexico by herself, right? She's still a traveler. I mean, I don't understand it. It makes no sense. She's a she's a bit of a weirdo, man. But I don't get her. Another question. By the way, the lighting is acceptable by my low standards. Yeah, this is actually driving me nuts. I mean, both my LEDs, the batteries died in them. I'm actually going to. I'm actually going to move this because that's completely driving me crazy. Okay, that's a little better. Okay, on to our next question. It's from Andy. I agree with almost everything you say, yet you are brave. If I want life, maybe a lot of mean hecklers. You are doing great. Proud of you. Oh man, thank you, Andy. I really appreciate that. For those of you guys that don't know, Andy was one of the first people that ever like really believed in me in terms of like writing or being a writer actually. Um, yeah, I mean, I always got good feedback from like teachers in university and high school and all that. Oh, Wade, you're such a good writer, but that's not really worth too much, really. I mean, it makes you feel good for about 2 seconds. So it's like, yeah, whatever. But but Andy, he was a professional. I thought that he was a very good writer. I still think he is a very good writer because he writes real. He tells a real story in an interesting and engaging way. And a unique way too. I mean, nobody has ever written like Andy Graham, right? I mean, it's just never happened, right? And yeah, when I was a kid, just kind of started out blogging like 2005 or so. He kind of plucked me out of the ether or something, you know, gave me encouragement and helped me out and advice, and having somebody that I respected as a writer, tell me that I was good and give me encouragement and kind of show me the way. That that was extremely formative. I probably wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for him. First of all, I wouldn't have known really how to make money off a blog. I started this video out talking about how I was a moderately successful blogger and all this, and how this led to all these opportunities. But that wouldn't have happened if Andy Graham didn't kind of show me the way and kind of mentor me. It just wouldn't have happened. Probably wouldn't have happened. I don't know what else I would have done, because I'm really pretty useless. I mean, I can write, and I can work a camera. Everything else, I'm fucking useless. So it's a good. I guess Andy kind of saved me in a way. But anyway, Andy, yeah, I really appreciate that. I really can't wait to travel the world extensively and deeply. I'm stuck amongst everyday people in this modern world. I miss the slow and almost meditative pace of long-term travel. Yeah. I mean, I think there's two concepts of travel, right? There's travel as kind of a physical experience, of like physically going to different places, you know, repetitively over time and kind of moving, through the world physically. And there's also the more internal way of travel, right? Well, it's not about places. It's not about going anywhere. It's about how you approach the world, right? It's about, looking for the new, challenging your beliefs, pushing your comfort zones, meeting new people, finding new things. And while you do, the first type of travel, yeah, obviously you need to travel. For the second type, you can do that in your own backyard. You can do that, in your own city. A lot of people, man, here's the thing, man. It's an interesting thing that you start realizing about people. People that live in like even big kind of cool cities over time. A lot of people, even people who like live there their entire lives, what they actually know about their city is so limited. I mean, what they know about the state that they live in or the province they live in is so. What they know about their own country is so limited. I mean, all the time you talk to people in New York. It's like, oh, did you ever go to this place? Like, no, never been there. Or even in a smaller city like Chicago, whatever. I mean, oftentimes, like, when you live in a place, you get the sedentary mentality. Now, being sedentary is not only about staying in one place, but having this mentality of the routine and doing the same thing over and over again, having your stomping ground, having your community. All of that's normal and all of that's okay. And I don't think it's any worse or better than anything that I do. However, it's that mentality of being sedentary that kind of makes you get stuck in like the daily grind, right? Like I would have no problem living in pretty much any city for years, right? Because every day I would go out and explore something new. And kind of like the irony of travel, right, is that it takes time to really get into a place, to really get deep, to really learn about it. You see, like, I don't like traveling fast because you don't really experience much of anything. You don't see much of anything. You don't learn much of anything. I mean, you travel fast. I mean, your experience is like hotels and buses and planes, and once you do that for a few years, it gets pretty boring, right? I mean, the longer you stay in the place, the more opportunity you have to learn about it, to build relationships, to know the stories of the people all around you, and to follow their stories through time, and to meet people and find out what they do. And that's one of the reasons why I keep going back to the same places over and over, year after year, is because I'm living stories there, right? I mean, when you're a backpacker, you don't really live much of a story. It's way. I mean, a lot of people have this experience. You can talk to other people who go out backpacking, think they're going to have this great adventure, and they come home disillusioned and they never do it again. So, oh, travel sucks. No, travel doesn't suck. The way you did travel sucks, right? There's a big difference, and I would recommend to anybody, right? If you have a month to travel, go to one place. Go to one place rather than going to 10 different countries, right? Because those experiences that you can have in that one place will be far beyond what you could experience if go check places, off a list. Anyway, yeah. So I mean, no matter where you are, you can still live that. You can still live that travel. You can still have that travel mentality. You can still live as a traveler. I'm going to tell you a story. When I was young, I traveled with this guy on the blog. You can find him like way back, maybe what year would be 2005, 2006 or so. I called him Stubbs, right? He's a friend also from Western New York, right? I traveled with this dude. I was worked with this dude doing archaeology, traveling doing archaeology. That we traveled together, backpackers. We were together every day for pretty much 2 years, right? Just traveling, having crazy experiences, doing all kinds of stuff, right? I kept going. Stubbs went home. He went home to Buffalo, right? And now you think he got a job as a fireman, right? He was actually Erie County Citizen of the Month. Like, no joke, man. Like a few months ago, right? He went home. And you would think, oh yeah, he went home. His mentality is going to change. He's going to become a sedentary person, you know, get his routine, get his friends, you know, just go into a shell and stay there. He got a wife, has a kid. You would think that he was going to follow that narrative, but he didn't. I was there a few months ago, right? And he is the same dude that he was when he traveled. Like he's a fireman, so he knows like all the weird, interesting, crazy, and kind of dangerous places of Buffalo. So we got in his truck, we just went around to him. And we met some of the craziest, weirdest, most interesting people ever. I mean, we're talking like, man, I mean, it was off the hook, right? He took me around to this, beat up, battered, kind of forgotten semi-industrial area to like this community of like homeless homosexuals, right? He took me, at this bar, dude, brought me out to this dude talking to him. He's like, a notorious pedophile, and I'm not saying like being a pedophile is anything good, but like meeting and talking to somebody who does to meet in such a character, it's like wow, it gives you one of those like what the fuck experiences that you kind of travel for. And then whatever, he took me to this old market, the place that was like this old market in Buffalo like 100 years ago. They still have horse stables. Someone turned a bar, one of these horse stables, into a bar. The only people that know about it are the people of that community, like locals. Like this place isn't advertised, nobody else knows about this place. And we just rode around like fuck, met Crackhead Phil, who's actually a fucking really cool guy. Met Tourette's Tony, right? All these characters that he knew in his city because he still kept that traveler mentality, right? Of going out and making connections with people and learning about people and kind of experiencing life through the people around you. And he's a fireman, he goes around and he gets to see like the strangest, weirdest stuff, right? And he loves it because he still has that traveler mentality. And that's just an example of how a traveler never stops traveling, really. I mean, once you get kind of stuck, once the travel, the role of travel kind of gets stuck in your head, it's kind of difficult to get it out, and it's just, I don't know, it's just what you do for entertainment, right? Keep yourself occupied, keep yourself stimulated. You go out, you meet people, you talk to them, you go to some place you've never been before, you look around, you try to make something happen. Anyway. Okay. That looks like it's about it. Um there's any more questions, feel free to ask. We've been on for like an hour and a half now. I thought I was gonna be on for like 5 minutes. Oh, here we go. Yeah, travel is addictive, and I can see how people travel for 5 to 10 years. Yeah, it becomes a lifestyle. And you kind of get stuck in it almost. I think it's good. I mean, I still like it, but I can't imagine doing anything else, right? It kind of breaks you almost, right? I mean, once you start living a life where you can control like so many aspects of your life immediately, right? If you don't like something, you do something else. You don't like a place, you go somewhere else. You don't like a person, you don't talk to them anymore, right? You can't do that really, in everyday sedentary life. You got to, I don't know, kind of like I said before, it makes you intolerant in certain ways and makes it difficult to mesh yourself back in with the society that you left behind. Ooh, nice stop. Does time fly by? Yeah, but I think it does for everybody. I mean, I see what you're getting at, but actually, I think time may seem to. I don't know. I can't say that for sure. But when you're constantly pushing the reset button on your community and your society and the people around you, right, and you're not living that continuous experience of time of, I mean, and you're not living these experiences over a long period of time with people, and you're resetting everything over and over and over again. Each place you go, new people, new group, new that. I think it seems like time does go by faster because you lose these temporal handholds, right? These temporal bookmarks, in your life to a certain extent, right? Like, man, I mean, I have no idea what day of the week it is ever. Sometimes I don't even know. Sometimes I have to remind myself what month it is. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? Because I don't really have this social structure that kind of keeps me to keep me on this kind of temporal plane, kind of moving into the future. I don't know. Travel I think it kind of warps the mind in a certain way. Oh, 21 years old with not much mileage in his life. Dude, that's like that's like such an exciting time, man. Like I remember when I was like, in my early 20s and I was literally shopping, for the lifestyle that I wanted to live, right? I was, what do I want to do? Do I want to be a marine biologist? Do I want to be an archaeologist? Do I want to be a world traveler? Do I want to be a writer? Do I want to be a filmmaker? Hey, Rivers, we're still running live. I'm almost done. Do you want to, and it's just so exciting because you can kind of pick these little, professions and lifestyles that you want to live and start preparing for them and start learning about them and start training for them. So, yeah, I'm going to go do this, right? And then you're like so young at that point and you're investing so little in these pursuits that you can be like, eh, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do this instead, right? So this whole period of span of life, now this is something that the USA really gets right. It allows young people between the ages of like 18 and probably like 28 or 30 years old to just go out and explore, right? There's not much social pressure to really build a life until you get out to about 20, 28, 29, 30, right? It's not like that in Asia, right? It's like right out the fucking bat. Like, oh, you finish high school, you go to college, you get a job, and that's your life. The parents pat themselves on the back, wash their hands, say, oh, that was a job well done. We're set for life because, you know, little Wong Wei, fucking got a job at I don't know, Foxconn or something like that, right? In America it's not like that. We really, I mean, probably Western Europe too. There's a lot of latitude given to young people to explore and to try different lifestyles and to fail, right? To go out and pursue one lifestyle, have it not work, and to go back to square one. So, man, if you're 21 years old, you can go back to square one so many times in the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, and have it not matter. That it's an exciting time to live. And I don't know what country you're from actually. I don't know if you're from the USA. I don't know. Maybe you're from China and your parents are making you go to college or something. I don't know. But anyway, that's how it is in USA, and I think that's one of the nice things about American culture is that we don't take young people seriously in this country, right? We don't give them real responsibility, and we don't expect much from them, right? In Asia or a lot of like emerging country markets of the world, young people have a responsibility to their family. They need to go out and get a job and work so that their family can be okay. You know, a lot of people in the USA or an overly developed country, young people don't have that pressure, and they can go out and explore and try to be artists and make ridiculous documentaries that take them years that they're not going to make any money for when they're 37 years old. Anyway, guys, yeah, that's about it. Okay, last question. I think we can call it a good day. Good idea, man. He wants ask for one or three big life advice. I am 21 from London. Okay, that's cool. With not much parental pressure. I am running a growing business and avoided college. Great idea, man. Great idea. Do it, learn. Fail or succeed, but you're probably gonna experience more than if you go to school studying something that you're not completely passionate about. Yeah, I think that's great. Um, Do you have another question to follow that up with? But yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, I didn't go to school. I didn't finish university, my undergrad, until I was 20. Hey, Rivy, we're almost done. Quiet down, baby. Until I was 28 years old. Right. I mean, I would go to school when I was like 18, 19. I'd drop out, go to school, drop out, go to school, drop out. And because, I waited until I was a little bit older, I was able to give myself time to kind of figure out what I really liked and what I really wanted and what I was really passionate about and what was really possible. Right. If I went to school, like right off the bat when I was 18 and I stayed in for 4 years, I would probably be a marine biologist right now, and I'm not so sure if I would really like that too much, right? You know, because that's what I started studying. Something ridiculous like science and biology. That's not me, man. And the thing is, at that time when I was 18 years old, I didn't know who me was, and I went out and I explored and I figured things out, and I tried lots of different things, and I realized that there was like a zillion like little me's that I wasn't, right. A lot of things that I wasn't cut out for, and eventually I gave myself enough time to find out what I am cut out for, and I still had the resources to kind of like put the time and money and the space to kind of invest in what I found that I was really passionate about, and what I'm really passionate about is traveling the world, talking to people, and writing, and making video, right. And I was able to do that primarily because I gave myself a lot of space. When I was in my 20s, I gave myself 10 years. Well, maybe 10 years. Actually, probably about 6, 7 years. I gave myself a good amount of time to figure it out, right? And try new things and have things not work and basically make a mess of myself. Oh, wow. Another big question. Is there anything you have feared when you were young about the future that never came true? Actually, man, I'm gonna answer this question in our next Q&A session, probably next week. Okay, I'm gonna bookmark this question and I'll answer that next time. Yeah, definitely, man, definitely. So we'll start that. We'll start our next Q&A with that question. Is there anything you have feared when you were young about the future that never came true? Because that is an excellent question. But right now, I'm gonna get going. Thanks a lot, guys, for all these questions. I'll post. I'll make posts throughout the week. One we're gonna do the next Q&A. But I hope to see you guys here in the next few days, week, whenever we do this again. But I'll let you know when this happens. Follow me on vagabondjourney.com and Facebook. We're just here on Facebook, guys. Thanks a lot. See you later.